Imagine waking up one morning and the world outside is white, not just a little frost. Everything is buried beneath snow. The trees are bare. The rivers are beginning to freeze. The animals you've been hunting for weeks have disappeared. And you haven't eaten since yesterday. Today, we know winter will eventually end. We have heated homes, thick jackets, supermarkets packed with food, and weather apps that tell us exactly when the next snowfall is coming. But 40,000 years ago, winter wasn't just another season. It was a countdown. Every day the temperature dropped, the odds of surviving dropped with it. There were no stores to buy food from, no central heating, no insulated boots, no emergency blankets, just you, your family, and a world that suddenly wanted you dead. For most animals, surviving winter is surprisingly simple. Some grow thick fur, others migrate thousands of miles. Bears sleep through most of it. Birds simply fly away. Humans couldn't do any of those things. We didn't have thick fur, we couldn't fly south, and if we tried hibernating, we'd starve long before spring arrived. So why didn't we disappear? How did a nearly hairless ape survive ice, snow, and freezing nights, while creatures far stronger than us went extinct? The answer isn't just one invention. It's a series of decisions that completely changed what it meant to be human. The first problem wasn't the cold, it was calories. Your body is basically a furnace. Even while you're sitting still, it's constantly burning fuel just to keep your organs working. But when the temperature falls, that furnace has to work much harder. A modern adult can burn thousands of extra calories during extreme cold, simply trying to stay warm. Now imagine trying to replace those calories without farm, without refrigerators, and without supermarkets. Every meal had to be hunted. Winter made hunting far more difficult. Plants disappeared beneath snow. Fruit was gone. Many animals migrated to warmer regions, while fresh snowfall erased the tracks of those that remained. Imagine spending an entire day following a herd only to realize the tracks have vanished beneath fresh snow. You've wasted precious energy and gained nothing in return. That's the cruel part about winter. Looking for food costs energy, but if you don't find food, you lose even more. Ancient humans were trapped in a dangerous equation. The colder it became, the more food they needed. Yet the colder it became, the harder food was to find. This wasn't a bad week. It happened every single year. And starvation wasn't the only threat waiting outside. Once the sun disappeared, another enemy arrived, the cold itself. Even today, wet clothing and freezing weather can become life-threatening within hours. Ancient humans had no waterproof jackets, no thermal layers, and no insulated sleeping bag. Every freezing night became a battle against their own bodies. As your body loses heat, your muscles begin to shake uncontrollably. Your fingers stop working properly. Thinking becomes harder. Eventually, you don't even realize you're dying. This is hypothermia, and for ancient humans, it was always just one cold night away. So how do you survive a season that seems designed to kill you? The answer begins with the most important technology humans ever mastered: fire. Today, we think of fire as something that keeps us warm during a camping trip. For ancient humans, it was the difference between seeing another sunrise or not. A campfire could raise the temperature inside a shelter by several degrees. That may not sound like much today, but on a freezing ice age night, those few degrees could mean the difference between life and death. Fire also did something just as important. It turned the night into an advantage. Most predators avoided flame. Wolves, hyenas, and cave lions suddenly had to think twice before approaching a group of humans sitting around a fire. For the first time, humans weren't just surviving the darkness, they were controlling it. But keeping a fire alive wasn't easy. If the flames went out during a snowstorm, starting another one from scratch could take hours. Sometimes it wasn't even possible. That's why archaeologists believe many groups treated fire almost like a family member. Someone was always watching it. Someone was always feeding it. Losing your fire didn't just mean losing heat, it could mean losing your entire group. But even a roaring fire had limits. Step more than a few meters away and the cold returned immediately. Humans needed another solution, so they borrowed one from the animals they hunted: clothing. The earliest clothes didn't look anything like the jackets we wear today. There were no buttons, no zippers, and no perfect stitching. Instead, animal hides were carefully scraped clean using sharp stone tools before being stitched together with needles carved from bone. Some of those bone needles are over 40,000 years old, and they're surprisingly sophisticated. They even had tiny eyes for threading animal sinew. With properly fitted clothing, humans could survive temperatures that would have been impossible with bare skin alone. Then came shelter. Many people imagine ancient humans spending every winter inside caves. Some certainly did, but caves were surprisingly rare. Most groups had to build shelters themselves. They used mammoth bones as frames, stretched thick animal hides over the top, and packed snow or earth around the outside to trap heat inside. Ironically, snow itself became one of their greatest building materials because it contains thousands of tiny air pockets that act as insulation, making the inside much warmer than the freezing air outside. It wasn't comfortable, but comfort had never been the goal. Survival was. And yet, even with fire, warm clothing, and carefully built shelters, none of it mattered if there wasn't enough food. So how do you find food when the ground is frozen, the rivers are covered in ice, and almost every plant has disappeared? You stop thinking like a hunter and start thinking months ahead. Long before winter arrived, ancient humans were already preparing for it. During the warmer seasons, they hunted far more meat than they could eat in a single day. Instead of letting it spoil, they smoked it, dried it, or buried it in frozen ground, where nature itself became a giant refrigerator. Archaeologists have even found evidence of enormous hunting events, where entire herds of animals were driven off cliffs. Not because one family needed food, but because an entire community needed enough to survive the brutal months ahead. Winter didn't reward the strongest hunter, it rewarded the best planners. And when hunting became unavoidable, humans had another advantage that almost no predator could match: teamwork. A mammoth weighed several tons. No single human could bring one down alone, but 10, 20, maybe even 30 people working together? Suddenly the impossible became possible. Some members of the group drove the herd toward a trap. Others waited with spears. Everyone had a role. It wasn't strength that made humans dangerous. It was coordination, communication, and trust. Winter forced people to depend on each other more than any other season. That's what made our species different. Most animals survive because they're physically adapted to their environment. Humans survive because we adapted the environment to ourselves. We built shelters, we made clothing, we protected fire, we stored food, and perhaps most importantly, we shared knowledge. Every winter taught new lessons: which valleys flooded first, which caves stayed warm, where the reindeer migrated, and which plants could still be found beneath the snow. Parents passed those lessons to their children not through books, but through stories told around a campfire. Those stories became experience. Experience became culture, and culture became humanity's greatest survival tool. By the height of the last ice age, around 20,000 years ago, humans were living in places where winter temperatures dropped below minus 30 degrees Celsius, places where many larger and stronger animals disappeared forever. Yet the nearly hairless ape that evolved under the African sun didn't just survive, it spread across the planet. Today, winter is something most of us experience from behind a window. We complain about scraping ice off the car or forgetting our jacket before walking outside, but every time you zip up a coat, light a fire, or step into a warm home, you're relying on solutions that began tens of thousands of years ago. The real reason humans survived winter wasn't because we were the strongest, the fastest, or the toughest. It was because we could learn, plan, adapt, and survive together.
If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. That would help me a lot. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.